Welcome to the Narrowboat at Jamesville. Hope you're well, thanks for joining me. I can now turn my attention to the first fix of the electrics, which is going to require all of this, which is a long length of conduit, which I unravelled and have left kind of along the roof of the boat to kind of straighten. I think it's worked. That's a result. The one I opened yesterday is on the port side, so excellent. That's actually worked a treat. Right, I'll get this in. It's definitely worked in terms of straightening this out. On slow patrol I use trunking for all the cables, but the cables I use for the nav lights and everything I put under here, which then meant I had to put it up. So in this boat, all the the cables for the top of the boat are going to be laid at the ceiling, which is kind of correct, but it's all going to go into this. So the challenge I've got now is twofold. This is the cable I'm using, which is 3mm marine cable. It's pretty good stuff. So I've got 100-metre reel of each of them, and this is for nav lights, tunnel light and horn. So there's going to be one strip for the nav lights, and I'll split them up the end, one for the horn and one for the tunnel light. So that is 3 lengths of each of that. And to get it through, I haven't done it, as I said, on slow patrol I used trunking, which I thought was easier, but this is the proper way to do it, so I'm going to do it the proper way. So I'm going to get some string and see if I can get some string through it and then pull it all the way through. I think that's going to be the plan. Right, I've now got a length of string, the same length as the conduit, with a bit of excess. Now I need to get the string through the conduit. Right, so on one end of the piece of string I've put a couple of knots and a bit of cut off spray foam, and the idea is to tuck this into the end here, into one end. The other end is tied to a spanner. That's a little bit too big. Well, I'll trim a bit off that. Right, I've trimmed a bit off it. Kind of stuff that into the conduit. Poke it in with my finger. Right, and then go down the other end. And then use a vacuum cleaner to suck it out. That's going to be the plan. Let's see if this works. Oh, yes. Bloody well has. There you go. Right, 3 runs of cable and 6 individual cables. There's quite a bit to get through this conduit. So I can only really, once there's some in there, I can only afford to kind of go for one pull on the string. So I've got to get them all done at the same time. And this is how. So first off, I've got my 2 cable reels, and to make life easy for myself, I've just put them through one of those brass rods on here, so I can unravel it nice and easily without kind of going everywhere. So first thing I need to do is I need some excess at both ends for the connections and stuff. And then once it's all in place, then I can trim to suit. And then to differentiate between the 3 sets of cables going through this, I am using different coloured insulation tape. So I've got earth, blue and white. And then from that point, that's when I mark it out against, or measure it out against the conduit. So I just basically roll it all the way to the end of the conduit. Right, so now I've got a length to the end of the conduit. Now I need to take off another, I worked out it's 3 meters from there. So that is 1, 2, 3. That is going to be the end of that cable. Right, now immediately after that, you want to put a bend in it, a real sharp bend. Because that is going to be the turning point in it. And basically you just want to match it exactly up again. Actually, before you do that, on that end of the bend, you want to put a different colour on, because that is going to be another cable run. Right, and then walk that all the way back to the end of the cable. Right, I've got my 3 lengths of cable all measured up. So there's the bend in that double one, and there's the separate line. So they're all 3 cable lengths, are all kind of differentiated. Kind of bent the end of the surplus around paint tins, and there's the other one there. I've tried my string securely around the 3 lengths of cable. So I'm just kind of feeding the cable in from this end, and then kind of simply pulling the flex through on the other end, which I've got it attached to a spanner. That's well easy. Keep pulling it through. This is easier with 2 people because it's a constant equal pressure then of pushing and pulling. There we go. So now I need to pull it through until the insulation tape markers come through. Right, there they are. So that's all the excess for the electrics cupboard. Right, I've now got the 3 sets of cables all the way nicely through the conduit to the other side here. So that is my flex for the front of the boat. That's my flex for the electrics cupboard. Now I can go about putting this in place. Right, so I've kind of just secured it in place temporarily using cable ties. But importantly, I got the length of it right. So I'm going to want that to dip in. Basically, there's going to be some kind of cupboard here, and at the top of it is where all of these cables here are going to come into, and then kind of spur off from that area. There's more likely to be a cupboard on that side, or there is going to be a cupboard on that side than that, because the walkway coming in is going to come that way. So I'm going to want that probably open. So that area, or it might have a little thing at the top there just to house some bits, but that is definitely going to be a cupboard. That's going to be a wardrobe in fact. So that's a good way to disguise all that cabling ends. So now I need to I think I probably need to properly put that in place and spray foam it up. Right, this is not particularly pretty, but it's working. All this stuff has dried nicely, so I'll trim that back and it will have held up the conduit fine. Happy days. Right, most of the spray foam is done and nearly drying, so I'll kind of take those clamps away when it's all done. Now I need to make the spurs there to take it over to the two bits there, which is going to be starboard nav light and the horn. So these are already in place. So the horn's there, that's the nav light. Actually, now I'm looking at it, the cables on this side of that horn are pretty shocking. That's not very good. It's not through a proper gland. Not that that's the big deal, but also the way it's been secured on the outside is really bad. That's well unattractive. That's literally the only thing coming out the boat, apart from obviously the nav light. There's a stonking great nut there. There's no need for that. That should be mounted there. I might take that off and see if I can either change the cables or reposition it somewhere. I've taken the horn off, which is a French-made klaxon, but I'm going to get a different bracket and attach it onto there like that. Maybe the other way around like that. So the bracket is actually bolted to that bulkhead instead, and then I might get those filled in, those holes. I've got to take out these connections here, which were the old tunnel lights, so I'll get rid of that. I'm not going to replace these just yet, and I might have to block those holes in, although they might be useful for something else, I'll see. But yeah, I've got to take those cables out and those horrible connections, and then inside I need to put connections on those cables there, which is the nav light, and connect it into the other nav light. Right, the world of 12-volt electrical connections. On Slow Patrol I used this kind of stuff. I didn't use many chock boxes in fairness, but it was all these kind of basic spade connections were the ones I used for most of the lighting, actually for most of it. It works quite well. The only problem is you've got to use heat shrink around all of it to kind of give it an extra layer of protection. So on this boat, Project 58, I'm opting for these Wagos. This is a German company. They make a load of different kind of products, but these are really decent. We found they're kind of quite widely used on boats. These can take up to a 4mm cable, so obviously this is 3mm I'm using, and really easy. So on these two-way ones, you got a kind of cable in, clamp it down, cable out, clamp it down. It's basically just a buzz bar in there, but it's a really decent secure connection there. No faff, easy. And you can get little boxes to put all these in, label it up, it's all nice and easy. And the three-way is exactly the same, just gives you another output. So I'm going to be using this for all the lighting and all the kind of the connections around the boat. I'm just going about connecting the nav lights up. On these ones, to be honest, I should be using the inline Wagos, because these ones because they'll sit nicer basically, so I'll change them when I can. And then I need the cable coming over from the other side, which is this one here. So before I put the connections onto this one here, I need to lay all the cable on the top of the door frame up there behind this batten, and then I can spray foam it in place. So I've got all the cables going through this bit of conduit, and I can feed that through as long as that one doesn't poke its way out. I can reposition that afterwards. So this is the nav light connection now. And I'll take back all the slack once all the connections are made. These Wagoos do make it easy. No faffing around with anything. And I could secure it just by kind of mounting those cables together, but as I said, I need to get the inline one, so I'll swap them when I get round to it. Right, let's pull back that flex. Okay, good. Right, those ones are okay. That'll all go up to there quite neatly. That one go up there quite neatly. I can pull that flex through from this side now. There we go. And a bit more of the nav light one, which is blue. There. Right, now I need to make the connection between these three cables here. So I've got the port nav light, the main feed coming in, and the starboard nav light. They all need to go together in a 3. Right, that's them all done. So open up the 3 ends. 1, 2, 3, that's all the negatives. There we go, all connected. So I can, as I said, once I've got it all worked out, I can store that away or take some of the excess off and stuff. Right, let's see if this all works. Right, here's the other end of the cables, and that's the bend I put in it. So now when I cut that at the bend, that is the nav lights. So I can trim them up now and get them connected to a battery and see if they work. Right, the nav light cables are now connected through a circuit breaker to one of the old leisure batteries. So I'll flick that on now and let's go and see if the nav lights have sprung into life. The first bit of power on board the boat. Yes. Happy days. Still a bit in the sunshine, but that is on. Okay, those are the only 2 cable ties holding up all of the conduit. The spray foam has taken the load. It's all nice and flush, so when the ceiling fits over, it'll be perfect. Good. Next thing I need to do is, well, the next cable run is for the switches. Basically, I'm having 2-way switches, but only for the kind of bow cabin, so I can turn the bedroom lights off or on from the stern. And also when I come in here, I can turn them on here. So that's not going to be the case for every bedroom or every room in the boat, but that is certainly going to be the case for the bow, which means I need to do a whole load of cable run for the switches. So I think what I'm thinking of doing for these though is going through these battens here, basically just drilling a little hole and going all the way through, and then bringing the switch down. I might do it on the other side actually, and bring the switch down to here, so when you walk in, the switch is on your left. No, the switch should be on the right.
That'd be where the wardrobe is though. I guess I could have a switch on the wardrobe somewhere. It might be better if it's on that bulkhead there. Yeah, that'd probably make more sense, wouldn't it? Okay, so switch there. So basically means I have to go through all of these battens, which is no problem. Anything I need to make sure is when I'm screwing the ceiling to those battens, I'm well out of the way of that. And my design for the ceiling means that the edge of it will actually be coming up to there. So I should be mostly using these battens, and as long as I don't put any cables through them, should be all right. I'm going through the cable, that's for sure. This weekend is moving weekend, so Sweary Dan and Marlon are on their way up. Rob and I have got to go down towards Berkhamsted, so I'm hoping we're going to all meet in the Waitrose pound there. We've just got to find room for 5 boats. That's the only tricky bit with that plan. But I'm glad this has all worked out all right. The first run of cables for the nav lights and everything is all good. I need to now, well, order more cable, and then I've got to do all the ceiling lighting circuits as well. So I'm going to have central lights and then kind of down the both sides. So that's going to be the plan for that. I need to just kind of plan it all out one last time, make sure I've got the right amount of bulbs and connectors and everything, and then I can start to turn my attention to that mammoth task. It's going to be quite a lot of tricky bits to get around all of this stuff, but there'll be a way, no doubt. Until next time, thanks for watching, take care, bye bye.